Hey, Crystal Maiden here for part 6 of Twilight Princess. There's so many different interesting gameplay gimmicks in the dungeons that having the Gale Boomerang opens up. Like, you can interact with the fans to make bridges spin around. A mechanic that actually comes back after the fourth dungeon. Like, this isn't a item that stops being useful. And that's not only because of what it's intended to do, but in the GameCube version of Twilight Princess, when you target, like, you can actually do a really long jump attack with the Gale Boomerang. The way the Gale Boomerang works is that you aim it. Unfortunately, just like in Wind Waker, it inverts up and down when you're aiming. So, I had already played Wind Waker recently though, so I didn't have to adjust to that. But yeah, you aim, and you press R, and that's how you decide to target. Like, basically whatever you want. It's not like in Wind Waker, where you can only target things that the game decides you can target. In this game, you can target pretty much whatever you want. And targeting a whole bunch of different things makes the Gale Boomerang start moving around for a longer amount of time. Especially if you make the targets be far away from each other. So that's how I got over here. I did a long jump, but I didn't start recording until it was too late. So that's how I was able to jump over here. So that's actually a pretty fun, it makes the game more fun when you know that you can do that, because basically what you do is that you throw the boomerang far away from you, and you turn the camera to the side. And if the boomerang is far away from you, and the camera isn't being blocked by a wall to the right of you, then you can do a jump attack and just do a long jump. But it doesn't really work in the Wii version, because when you get out your sword when you're L targeting, in the Wii version it automatically forces you to attack, which is extremely annoying and constantly locks me into a combo in Wind Waker. So maybe the removal of that is why I don't think it's as difficult to like avoid getting locked into a combo as is in Twilight Princess. The combat still feels like it's padded out, like the enemies take too long to die, but it doesn't feel as grating at the start of this game. I also like how you can make that chest fall with the Gale Boomerang, like just by throwing it at that spider web dangling things. But yeah, and I like this too. On the floor there's a Z shape, and that gives you a hint as to where you should move the Gale Boomerang. Of course, it's still trial and error, figuring out where exactly, like which fan you should start with. But yeah, it's like, I like this item a lot. It's kind of annoying trying to do the long jump attack though, because like it doesn't let you see enough of what's ahead of you, so it doesn't give you as much time as you would have liked. Because like there's a lot of time pressure to jump attack quickly, because you throw the Gale Boomerang and you automatically unequip your sword, so then you have to waste time equipping it again before you can jump attack. In Japan, the GameCube version of the game was cancelled, for the on-the-shelf rental at least. It was officially sold via Nintendo's online store, although rumor has it that Nintendo almost entirely cancelled it. Much like other late GameCube titles that were converted for a Wii release, like Slice Super Paper Mario. The Wii U remake is based on the GameCube version, making it the first time it'll be sold new at Japanese retailers. It's like they knew that the GameCube version was the superior one. Although it makes sense because the GameCube version was the later release, and thus had the least amount of glitches. Zelda director Eiji Aonuma feels like he didn't make this game as epic and grand as he intended. He said he regrets making Hyrule in this game a grand size, because with that size, they were unable to fully take advantage of the space he created. He had planned to use that grand scale as a starting point in the development of Skyward Sword. Miyamoto said Twilight Princess was missing something. So, like, even the people who made this game felt disappointed with it. And I can't help but feel like it's because they're comparing it to Ocarina of Time, which came before it. It's especially weird because this isn't an N64 game, it automatically looks better by comparison if you look at it objectively, because, I mean, come on, it doesn't have horrible, blocky, polygonal models for the humans that make everyone look like mannequins. It has much better camera control. Like, you're not restricted to only being able to control the camera by pressing L to center it behind you. And it's not awkward in that, like, the items are mapped to the C buttons, and, like, there's an actual camera stick rather than just C buttons that move the camera in specific 4 directions. Like, there's so many things that this game improved on with Ocarina of Time by virtue of it just being, like, technologically better. But it has its own problems at the same time. Like, it has the werehog, the wolf. The wolf isn't bad, just less interesting, less varied than Link's gameplay, because you can't use any of your items as the wolf. Even though Midna very clearly shows that she can keep your items in hammer space while you're the wolf. Why the hell can't Midna use those items for you? It's especially frustrating since when you're the wolf, when you're trapped in the wolf sections, you can't drink a potion at all. Why can't Midna, if she cares so much about making sure you don't die on her, why doesn't she just get out a red potion that you have and give it to you? It feels very arbitrary, like a forced way of forcing difficulty on you. Like, you can dig around to get hearts, but you have no way of knowing when you're going to dig up a heart and when you're going to dig up something else. Like, it just feels arbitrary limiting us like that, because if the whole point of seeing the sparkles on the ground is telling the audience that Link can smell something under there, why can't you just tell us what it is while you're at it? This was way more difficult than I thought it would be. But yeah, that's another creative use of the Gale Boomerang. It's not just used for one puzzle, like with the bow and just shooting eye switches. There's a whole bunch of different puzzles, like using them on bomblings to throw them into those bomb exploding plants. And using them on bomblings again to explode boulders that are too high up for you to throw the bomblings at. And of course, the bombling is surrounded by water, so you can't get it without the boomerang. According to Hyrule Historia, the reason Mallow gets his own sword is that the creators of the game really favored him. So, like I said earlier, he was a creator's pet. But again, he's easily the best of the kids. Like, I don't really feel like he actually bullies Colin. Like, he's just a dick to everybody, really. Like, he's sarcastic, and I'm just amused by sassy characters. He's like Midna to me. I don't like his design at all, unlike Midna. I mean, I don't like Midna's, like, legs, like, the bottom part of her, I guess. Like, I didn't like how she looked like when you first met her and she had her arms upwards, yawning. I didn't really like that, but most of the time I really like Midna. She has a pretty cool design. Like, with the fused shadow mask on her head. The helmet on her head that's probably making her evil. Maybe that's the reason why she acts evil and manipulative, because of the fused shadow on her head. But it's subtle, like it's not obviously stated. So Midna doesn't angst over it and go, "Oh my god, I can't believe I had to rely on that thing." Is that why she has like her magical hair, which I can grab on things? Is it the fused shadow on her head? I guess so. But it's convenient because, like, her having a fused shadow with her, I guess makes it so that you don't have to go through a 4th dungeon. So that's pretty convenient right from the start. And of course, there's floor tiles that you can upset with the Gale Boomerang. And there's enemies under the tiles that, like worms, that you can get out of them and make completely defenseless with the Gale Boomerang and just defeat them easily. if you just walk on top of those tiles while the worms are underneath them, the worms will just the worms will just attack you. I'm basically going to try and take advantage of the long jump attack as much as I possibly can. Unfortunately, the long jump attack doesn't give you a huge amount of height. It just gives you distance. So you can't jump upwards to skip 2 areas. Like, you can only, like, it has limits. The remake also added a hero mode that not only does it make you take double damage and not have the enemies drop hearts, but it flips the overworld around horizontally. A reference to how the Wii port flipped the whole world that way to make Link right-handed for a motion control game. Was it really too difficult? Was it really that difficult to just make Link right-handed and not flip the overworld? The trailer for this game shows Link battling a moblin that carries a large hammer, which we never see in the final game. By trailer, I'm assuming the one that's not featured when you wait on the title screen, because I think I would have remembered that. I don't really like these guys. Never really did like those spider enemies. Like, again, they're just annoying to fight. And so is this room. After the game was shown at E3 in 2005, a letter in Nintendo Power magazine, issue 195, asked if Midna was the game's titular Twilight princess. Nintendo Power sent a response that the developers weren't saying anything to avoid spoiling the plot. In the game South Park: The Stick of Truth, Princess Kenny wears an outfit that is a major reference to Zelda's outfit at one point in the game. That's random. You wouldn't expect South Park, of all things, to reference something like Twilight Princess. I don't know, it seems weird. Like, Twilight Princess isn't exactly a huge pop culture icon like Ocarina of Time is. And this is just misleading. First of all, this is another cutscene that the game schizophrenically doesn't let you skip. And second, it creates this huge swinger thing, but there aren't enough monkeys. So why did it create that cutscene and make the monkeys start swinging if there weren't enough monkeys to grab you? Well, it turns out there are. And that's why, like, you have no idea how difficult it is to determine exactly when you need to jump to grab onto them. Even if you turn the camera to the side to make a 2D perspective, you can't see enough of what's ahead of you. So it doesn't make it easier to judge when you should jump. Because you can barely see what's ahead of you at all. The camera's too zoomed into Link to make for a good 2D perspective, to make jumping onto them easier. At least the game over is merciful enough to respawn you from exactly the room that you died in. So honestly, game overs are worthless in this game. If they respawn you exactly where you died, then you don't have to worry about dying at all. And for the record, that's actually, like, there's exactly 2 game overs that I get in this game. I think. I mean, I've recorded up to Snow Peak by this point, and I haven't died a 3rd time. And I've gotten a lot of hearts by this point. So I highly doubt that I'm gonna die again. I mean, I'm probably going to cheat when it comes to the cave ordeals, because fuck those last few floors, man. Those enemies can be really cheap. Twilight Princess's companion game, sharing its graphical assets, Link's crossbow training, was meant to be a direct sequel, the Majora's Mask of the game. But production would have taken too long, so it was made a simple spin-off, taking advantage of the Wii Zapper instead. Now, I hate motion controls because they suck and can go down in fire. They don't always work right, and even when they do, it's just unnecessary, making it take way too much effort to do one simple thing. But at the very least, it seems like for people who like motion controls, Link's crossbow training is a really good game. You use the Wii Zapper to hit targets, and hitting targets gives you points, and eventually you beat the game. So it accomplishes what it wants to do perfectly. In fact, some could make the argument that it's the best game in the franchise because of it, because there's no real flaws with that game. A new thing that this game does, well, I guess Ocarina of Time did it first, but when a boss shows up, it tells you what name it is. You have no way of knowing what the name of a boss in Wind Waker is unless you take a picture of it without getting hurt by it somehow. That's not cheap at all. And then you give it to Karlov and... not Karlov. The guy who makes the sculptures, who isn't a Minish Cap. Well, maybe he has the same name, I don't know. Yeah, this is another creative boss because it takes full advantage of an item that you never really had before in a Zelda game. Sure, it's a boomerang, but you never had a tornado creating item. The problem is that there's time pressure to move quickly, so it's easy to choke and get hit while you're trying to target the bomb and then target the plants and like not screw up. Because you don't want to target the plants first, because then the bomb is going to get targeted next, and it's just going to go towards you. This is supposed to be him helping you out, because he doesn't have the brainwashing spider on you anymore, but he still looks like he has a furrowed brow, like he's a bad guy. You never get to talk to him as a wolf. That's a really disappointing missed opportunity, is that you never get to talk to him as a wolf, and make it feel like an actual fleshed out character. Like, the girl monkey, you get to hear her talk as a wolf, but not the elder that you fight as a mini-boss. But yeah, I guess this is his way of trying to make it up to you. But because of the intimidating music that plays when he shows up on this boss, it can be easy to get confused and think that he's still a bad guy. And it's intentionally swinging around holding the bomblings to make it harder for you to grab them. Like, I guess the boss got genre savvy, and that's why it destroyed the bomblings, or whatever it did to it, to make it so that you can't do it the way you did in the first phase. All the bosses have first phases, and a lot of them are so pathetic that, and so short, that it makes you wonder what the point of them is at all. Wind Waker's bosses never had first phases. Jun Mizusawa reprises her role of Zelda's actor from Ocarina of Time in this game. Zelda as a character in this game is pretty boring. Like, she's very, very basic, very traditional. Like, she's just like an Ocarina of Time, only she's like an adult Zelda. She's not sympathetic and relatable like child Zelda. Like, of course she's sad at the situation she's in, but like, there's not much depth to her character. It feels like a huge step back from Tetra. Sheik's design in Smash Bros. Brawl was actually based off of conceptual plans for Sheik appearing in Twilight Princess. Now, I think Zelda would have been a lot less bland as a character in this game if the whole Sheik thing actually panned out. Like, she was actually dressing up as a ninja, going around Hyrule, assisting you in your quests as one of the people that I like to call the freedom fighters, who you join later on in the game. The problem is it would have introduced even more bitching that it was too similar to Ocarina of Time, and therefore it's bad. It's bad for the game to be too similar to what's hailed as the best game in the franchise. Every time Midna talks after you beat a boss fight, it feels very pointless. Like, she doesn't really tell you anything new. Like, the one time she does tell you something new, it's something that you would have found out on your own anyways, from the plot. So it just feels like she's wasting my time every time she talks after a boss fight. I really like the teleportation sound in this game. Again, it's just so otherworldly. Every time that you accomplish something major or significant in this game, it asks you to save. Like, after you get to the first time you're a wolf and stuff. Which is good, because you go for a long period of time without saving this game, and there's no autosave, so it's good to make sure. It's good that the game makes sure you don't lose too much progress just in case.